How's it going, everyone? Want to talk some interesting news and notes regarding the future of PlayStation. On top of that, have a bit of an update on Astro Bot sales numbers, and they are looking pretty positive, all things considered, for a brand new, not a brand new IP, like Astro Bot's been around, but for its first big $60 title that isn't VR only as well. It's doing fairly well, so we'll talk about that. This could really be the launching pad for Astro Bot to be a successful franchise, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But first of all, PlayStation's co-CEO has noted some interesting things as far as their core business model and their focus on console products. Noting, I think that with mobile devices, there are many games that show advertisements and PCs are difficult to set up, but with PlayStation, once you turn it on, you can experience the content you bought straight away. The store where you purchase software also offers an intuitive experience because the products are laid out in an easy to understand manner. He added, "We are trying to increase our share of the overall game market by developing content for PC as well. There is no doubt that consoles will be the core of our business, but by offering titles for platforms other than consoles, we will reach a wider range of customers." This seems like pretty understandable as far as PlayStation's focus in the future of their products. Microsoft is going one way with the prioritization of Game Pass, offering their games on every platform. PlayStation is inching a little bit closer in terms of, reaching out to the PC audience and giving them their products. However, if you read between the tea leaves, they're very much still entrenched into the console gaming ecosystem. Because right now, Microsoft, while they're a competitor to an extent, PlayStation is just so far ahead of them that if you have the lion's share of this market and you are just generating so much revenue off of them, it makes way more sense for them from a financial standpoint to keep everybody, or as many people as possible, into that ecosystem and try as hard as possible to bring people into that ecosystem. And some of you guys might say, oh, Nintendo's out there. Nintendo has always been kind of on an island on their own. Look, even with the Switch 2, I don't know how powerful that console is, but is it going to be able to run PlayStation 5 titles? And the Switch 2 is going to be coming out in the latter half of the PlayStation 5's lifecycle. Like, Nintendo's in their own island and they're doing whatever they want, and Nintendo's gonna make a ton of money, but PlayStation, in terms of the audience that's gonna be playing games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, Warhammer Space Marine 2, in the console world, they're gonna have that lion's share of the audience over Microsoft, and if you get that audience, you have to prioritize catering to them because you're gonna make money off of them because you're not giving a cut of the money to Steam and Valve. You're gonna be getting revenue off people buying third-party games on your platform. Sony doesn't sniff any of what Steam is selling for Space Marine 2. Sony certainly is getting a cut of what Space Marine 2 sells on PlayStation 5, so drawing people within that ecosystem, that's just long-term gonna make them a lot of money. And if you look at how they're operating as far as their PC market goes, yes, the live service games will be available day one because the live service games are supposed to be their own ecosystem of generating revenue. Live service games, generally speaking, aren't supposed to draw people onto a platform. They're facilitating the creation of their own ecosystem and generating their own revenue. That's why Helldivers 2 was on PC day one. That's why Concord was on PC day one. Helldivers 2 was a gigantic success, and it was a big success because a large portion of players were on PC. However, for their single-player titles, it's to draw people into that ecosystem where they can make money off of you for years and years. And on top of that, if you look at where Sony is going with their single-player outings now, they are requiring PSN account linking. Make no mistake about it, with their PC releases, their absolute MO is to hopefully draw people into their ecosystem. You drop a game like God of War Ragnarok, dropping a few days on PC, requiring PlayStation Network account linking. Suddenly you create a PSN account, then you're on their email chain where they're gonna send you promotion and whatnot. You have a PSN account, and then you're gonna be one step in the door as far as being a PlayStation owner and being in that ecosystem. I would argue, while good idea with that plan, I understand why you're implementing this plan. I think it is going to be futile. I generally believe there's a distinct audience between PC and console, and if you are lucky enough where a couple of the PC players are gonna buy a console, I don't think it's going to be this case where suddenly these people are going to subscribe to PlayStation Plus. They're going to buy a bevy of third-party titles along with first-party titles. I think Best case scenario, and this is going to be a small portion of the audience that you can convince, is they'll buy a PlayStation 5 and they'll buy a couple of exclusives. Generally speaking, all of my friends, and I know that this is anecdotal, but the ones that have a PlayStation 5 and that are predominantly PC gamers, they rarely use their PlayStation 5. One of my buddies dug it out just to play Astro Bot, but that's generally what you're gonna get. You're gonna get them infrequently coming back. They're not gonna perpetually be subscribed to PlayStation Plus, which I'm sure Sony wants. I would say that there's a distinct audience between the two, and I don't think it would affect the PlayStation business in a negative way if they dropped a Spider-Man 2 day one on PC. I genuinely don't, but I will certainly understand the argument. I just generally think there isn't that drastic of a crossover between PC and console, and they're generally fairly separate. The people that want a console want an easy plug-and-play box in their living room, and they have a lot of investment. They have their library built up there, and the PC people are the PC people, and that's fine. And they can easily both coexist, but from PlayStation's standpoint, I certainly understand the argument of why they're gonna focus on console. That is where their money is made. Do not get it wrong. And everybody would love to have their ecosystem, their own ecosystem, where they can generate a lot of revenue in-house. That's what PlayStation is doing. That's what EA tried to do with Origin on PC. That's what Ubisoft is trying to do. That's what Xbox would ideally like to do. They had to shift their strategy a little bit, but make no mistakes about it, if any publisher could have the option of creating their own ecosystem where the player, the consumer, was invested into that ecosystem, they would absolutely take it, and Sony is still going to be focused on that with PlayStation going forward. Moving on from that, a game that I think is satisfying a lot of people within that PlayStation ecosystem is Astro Bot, a game that a lot of people were excited for, but really the clamoring and the excitement around the game has exploded since the reviews have come out and since people have gotten their hands on the game, and that's exactly what this game needed. Matt Piscatella noted, don't usually talk weeklies, but wanted to add some content to the UK reporting from last week. Across both physical and digital, Astro Bot ranked second in unit sales in the US for the week ending in September 7th, only behind NBA 2K25, which NBA 2K25 is going to be a juggernaut in its own right. No shame in coming second to that. And the Astro Bot DualSense was the week's best-selling accessory. Solid week one. And remember, Astro Bot, while it's not a new IP in the case of it being the first $60 game, it is new in that regard. It's not an established franchise, and this is going to be one of those games that I really believe that over the holidays, more and more people are going to talk about it, and more people are going to pick it up, and it has the opportunity to build in sales more so than what an established franchise would build in. I'm not saying it's going to sell more than Spider-Man 2. No, Spider-Man 2 was a juggernaut in its own right. I'm talking proportionally to the scale of Astro Bot, it could escalate a little bit more in terms of sales, and this is a good launching pad for the franchise to build. This is really the opportunity that the franchise needs to build upon and become an IP that Sony can rely on. I would argue that IPs, not necessarily Astro Bot, but I look at games like a Black Myth Wukong and a Stellar Blade. Like, for example, I think Black Myth Wukong, a large reason for that game's success was because it was released on PC as well. Further establishing that IP, I truly believe that if Stellar Blade was released on PC, it would be orders of magnitude bigger than what it ended up being. I think to establish a franchise, it's a good idea to have it multi-platform. The case with Astro Bot's a little bit different because it is so fundamentally designed with the DualSense controller that I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think eventually they'll port it to PC, and I'm really curious how the game is going to do on there because of its design structure, but hopefully the IP is going to continue to grow throughout this year. And given that Asabi only needed a 3-year window to develop Astro Bot, you look 3 years from now, 2027, that's around the time that we'd be talking about the PlayStation 6. If I'm Sony, I am gearing up Astro Bot 2 to be a premier PlayStation 6 launch title. That is what I would personally do. Maybe cross-gen it, but I think as a PS6 launch title, utilizing some of the hardware specifics of the PS6, I think that would make all the sense in the world if we're looking ahead. And if you want to continue building Astro Bot as an IP, making that a huge drawing card for the next generation console, I think makes a ton of sense. And the window would work out where it would be ready to go by the time the PS6 would drop. But that's my 2 cents, looking far ahead. But that'll do it for me. Again, PlayStation's core business model is still gonna focus on console, and that is gonna be where they are focused on. PC releases are gonna come years later, outside of the case of live service games, which hopefully Sony's gonna be pushing away from a little bit after the disaster that was Concord. We shall see. And Astro Bot doing incredibly well as far as sales are concerned. That's gonna do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.